Hi and welcome to the Catching Up Podcast, your show about speedrunnings and the runners themselves. I am Knight, your host, and today we have the chance to have SpikeVegeta with us, a speedrunner all about speedrunning, presenting, commentating, and also having just fun while doing it. Join me as we discover more about the man behind the speed. Hi and welcome to the Catching Up Podcast. I am your host, Knight, and I'm really happy to have SpikeVegeta with me today. Thank you for answering the call.
Yes, thank you for having me on today. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, and I hope you're doing well too.
I'm doing great. I can't complain too much. Here trying to fit in the streamer life on Twitch. You get used to streaming at night, and I end up. So this is like. Oh god, it's early for me. It's like 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but if
always happy to be on for these podcasts. Always happy to hear what questions people have for me and get to spread some awareness of speedrunning and whatnot. So
yeah, and spread some energy too, because the fact to have SpikeVegeta on the show today is definitely something I'm really interested about, because I don't know how to start this, but maybe it might be a slow start for the podcast, but I want to talk about that. I'm a really stubborn person. I try to be as open-minded as I can be, but when I have analyzed something and decided if it's for me or not, generally it's really hard to change my mind. I'm always open to new ideas, but yeah, I'm just like that. And the first time I saw you in a GDQ, and we're talking about maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to say this without looking like really insulting, but I cannot say I enjoyed my time about you. And
okay.
No, but don't take it the wrong way. The important part here is that you made me change my mind, and I cannot stress enough how hard this is. I don't know if you change, if I change, if whatever happened, but you're one of the highlights of the marathon in between the games right now for me.
Oh, thank you so much.
Seriously, this is really impressive. Like, I don't know, there's some kind of an energy, but some kind of I don't want to say arrogance, but like confidence that you have and that you will.
That's very nice of you to say. I would like to think of it as confidence.
Yeah.
This arrogance. I mean, I guess when you find your own confidence, you have to lean on arrogance almost like a little bit, that
sure.
You know that, like, yeah, what I'm doing is good. What I'm putting on makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because if you're not making yourself happy and you're not a little arrogant about it, then no one at home can ever enjoy what you're doing.
Exactly. Just complete confidence that you're doing what you want, and that if somebody isn't happy about it, they just can go look at something else. But definitely it lets you wield or support like the cause, of course, but I'm talking about the whole event. Like, you're there as if you owned it, and that's really fun to watch, seriously.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's really interesting that you say, like, at first you weren't really a fan of me. Thinking back, and it's one of those where, like, I mean, any time in life you want to feel like you're growing as a person, and if you're in the entertainment business, you're growing as an entertainer, your product's getting bigger. And 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said the same thing. I was not a big fan of just how I presented myself.
Okay.
I think I was still in those, like, a little bit post-college years. I wasn't quite sure what kind of a personality I was, entertainer. So I was sitting there like, oh, really? When you said that, not out of like well, screw this guy. I felt the same way. I was not happy with what I was at the time. So
okay.
It's cool to hear that I feel better about where I am right now, and you kind of feel the same way. That's pretty cool.
I do, and I hope the same will happen to me. I mean, like you said, the important part here is growing, and this is my first few episodes, and I hope that if I happen to get to episode 100, let's say that looking back, I will say, oh, yeah, I like what I did. I mean, I'm proud of what I did, but seriously, it's not even close.
Right, yeah, you're going to look back at episode 8 and say, man, why did I invite SpikeVegeta on? Like,
No. I'm still going to be proud of that, but I'm talking about presenting or the quality of the stream or everything. Yeah, sure. So let's dive right into the action then. Let's discover more about who SpikeVegeta is, or actually right now we'll talk about who SpikeVegeta was. As a little kid, how did you discover gaming? Or was it while you were a kid?
Yeah, so I was SpikeVegeta was born. My name is Asa, and born and raised in Arkansas.
Okay.
And yeah, I was the fourth five kids, and my two oldest brothers, the first two kids in the family, they had a Nintendo. I remember being a little kid. I guess I would have been like 3 at the time, and watching them playing Super Mario Brothers 3 on the little TV that we had in my mother's van. I mean, like, whoa, that looks cool. But the NES, I think, sort of passed me by. My only memory of playing a video game from the NES era was Duck Hunt. Duck Hunt was my first video game. And it's exactly what you expect from a little toddler playing Duck Hunt. I got right up on the TV screen, got the little light gun, and just had it right on the TV blowing up the ducks.
We all did that.
Oh, yeah. There was no inherent reason. Why not do this?
Sure.
It's one of those ways they say in fighting games, oh, that tactic is cheap. No, it's effective.
Exactly.
It worked. The game never taught me to not do that. So I should play Duck Hunt again at some point. But yeah, so my first real video game was Super Nintendo. I was a Super Nintendo kid. Cool. So it was Super Mario World, playing through it with my second oldest brother, us playing through it together, Mario and Luigi co-op, and being like the craziest day of my life. My two craziest memories as a kid, because, you know, I played a lot of video games. I didn't beat a lot of video games.
Oh, okay.
As a kid. I feel like I played like little bits and pieces, because growing up, we actually didn't own that many video games.
Yeah.
I remember us owning like 3 video games. So my biggest memories were we would rent a video game, and I'd play through like half of it or the first couple levels or whatever, or I'd get up to the final boss, I wouldn't beat him.
Yeah.
My first real memories were beating Bowser in Super Mario World, and that being like the craziest moment in my life. Like actually getting to see the credits. And then the second biggest moment was the second video game I ever actually beat, and that was Super Mario 64 in 1996.
Nice.
When I finally threw Bowser 3 times in it. And like it was my same older brother playing through with me. Him and his friend came in the room, and they were like, whoa! It was like none of us could throw Bowser. We had no concept of how to do that.
Nice.
So, even today, I still have no concept on how to throw Bowser. Yeah, I remember as a kid, we had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis. I remember us owning 3 games for the Super Nintendo. Super Mario World, Mega Man X, and Donkey Kong Country. For the Sega Genesis, having like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and a bunch of just like random Looney Tunes video games. So effectively, the Sega Genesis was always broken. So I played a little Sonic 2 and a lot of those 3 games. For the Super Nintendo. And those games kind of gave me my exposure. Because people always ask me, like, oh, so how'd you get into speedrunning? Yeah. So it was actually... I'm sorry if I'm cutting you off before that.
No. Go ahead. Move on.
But, no, so that ended up being my exposure to speedrunning, because inherently where it came from, and I think a lot of people are this way, was I didn't have a lot of games growing up. So I found ways to extend the playthroughs of those by saying, I wonder, there was like a clock, just, a basic clock that sat above the TV where we play our video games. Sure. I said, I'm just going to time how I play. I'm going to wait till like the top of the minute, and then I'm going to see how long it takes me to beat like Mega Man X or beat Donkey Kong Country.
Nice.
And those were the 2 I really did it with. And, I was a big time speedrunner. I beat Mega Man X in like 45 minutes, Donkey Kong Country in like an hour or whatever. I was like, all right, yeah, that's... And I didn't call it speedrunning or anything. It was just a way for me... Because the way I didn't think about it as doing it fast, I thought of it as, all right, this shows I'm better at the game. I'm not dying. I know exactly where to go to get all the power-ups, how to deal with each of the bosses. I know their weaknesses. I know where the secret exits are in Donkey Kong Country. So that was really cool to me, is at the end of the day, speedrunning, I felt always at its just base level is you're just good at a video game. Yeah. You're just really, really good at a video game, and you're applying it in a very kind of extreme, specific way when speedrunners go through them.
Yeah, because that's the concept of challenge runs, because it does not only apply to speedrunning, but the concept of challenge run will be you've beaten a game, you've liked it so much that you want to experience it in different ways, and then
Absolutely.
challenge runs would be a way to do it, and then speedrunning is a challenge run in itself, like I want to beat it as fast as possible, and then you can even add challenges to that, like a low percent or something like this. But what you actually said earlier, I've heard that many times doing these interviews, and I think there's a correlation there. Maybe only for the older speedrunners, but yeah, we come from a generation where video game was not as easy to get as it would be today. Today I can just have, well, actually I have more money than I had when I was a kid, true, but then also I can have access to Steam or online shops for the consoles. If I want a game, I'm a click away of getting it. But when I was younger, I had one video store. It was not that close to home, maybe half an hour ride. And they had probably around about 20 or 30 Super Nintendo games. I probably owned 2. Like you said, they're a really small amount. And then it would be all through renting that we we would experience game, which gave a time constraint. You had to play it. I had one rental a week, and it was for 2 days, and that's it. So you had to make
I know
most
that
of
feeling. And then you would the next week say, I want to re-rent that game.
Sure.
And you'd be like, because there weren't memory cards or anything. You had to pray that some other kid didn't, and delete your save file on there all of a sudden.
Yeah, I've actually rented Final Fantasy VI through my video store because we had the chance to have that one, and it's still a favorite today, as you can see right here. And there was another person, because I could know it was always the same person because he named this character always the same way, and I also did the same. So we knew each other without knowing each other, and we were always trying to not delete his file, and him would try not to delete mine. And we have actually met like 10 years later. We've talked about the game as just we were knowing about that, and he's like, did you rent it at that place? And I'm like, yeah. And would your character be named that? And I was like, what? Oh yeah. That was kind of a funny experience, yes. But yeah, no memory cards. So there was 3 saves file for Final Fantasy VI. I think it's the same for Donkey Kong Country.
Ooh, yep, yes it was.
And you have to deal with luck, and you have to rent it every week until you've passed it, because if you're the one who rented it, then nobody else would, because it was most of the time during the weekend. And yeah, you would want to harass your parents, like, we gotta go as fast as possible so I can rent it before he does. Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, that's what you had to do. I had a friend of mine, because I was, even as a kid, I was very conscious of like, oh, okay, I'm going to leave these other save files, try to delete the one that had the least amount of progress.
Yeah, exactly, did the same, yeah.
I had a friend, I went over to his place, we rented some video game, and he was like, oh, cool, and there were 4 save files on it, and he just immediately went and deleted all of them. And I was like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? And he didn't even think about it. Just like, well, I thought he was like, it was with his, like taking the legs off a frog or something.
Yeah,
like, I was like, oh my god. I don't know if I just made up the whole like legs off a frog or something. I think I'm thinking like science classes.
Probably some kid did that, yeah.
It like ruined my day. I couldn't believe he did that.
Oh yeah, because if it was your save file, it would have been pissed off the week after. Not only is not your file there anymore, but then it's not somebody else's file. It's just a clean file, and you'd be like, somebody just deleted that for the sake of it. Yeah, that's a that's a funny story. So yeah, but your introduction to gaming was those days, which I also went through.
I can relate on that.
Yeah, sure, I can. But then, like you said, your introduction to speedrunning, could you expand on it a little bit? What was the first thing you saw about speedrunning? I'm talking about community.
Sure, yeah. So again, like I did it as a kid, like this little thing that, and I had this thought process of no one's into this weird little thing I do. This was just like a me thing.
Yeah.
And it was 2004. I always describe it. There was a 1-page article of Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Okay.
One of the old video game magazines that I used to subscribe to. That had a little 1-page article in it saying something about, do you think you're fast at video games or something? And it talked about this website, speeddemosarchive.com, where you could go there and watch how somebody beat The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past in an hour 45, or Metroid Prime 100% in an hour 37, Super Metroid in an hour, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And like all my friends were like, huh, that's kind of weird. And in my head, I thought, I have to look at this, because I got the magazine and I actually didn't look at it till like I got to school and it was like lunchtime.
Yeah.
And then I ended up, as soon as I got home, I went to speeddemosarchive.com. Let me look up Link to the Past. I rented that once.
Yeah.
And it was such a little minor strategy. But, and the run's been done way better since then.
Yeah, sure.
But the first room you go into where there's a boomerang, you kill this enemy, but he's on the back wall. You open up the chest in the middle of the room, and there's a boomerang. Well, the enemy you just killed drops a key. So you would normally say, okay, well, yeah, casual. I'm going to walk over there, I'm going to pick up the key, and then I'm going to walk back out the door and go on my way. But instead, he picks up the boomerang, throws the boomerang, it grabs the key as you're moving back to the left to go out the door and go to the next door. And then it gets to you a little bit before you get to the door that you have to actually use it on. And just that right there as a concept, it's always stuck with me. Yeah. I think it's just that little stuff in speedrunning where just you're cutting out everything that's not necessary.
Exactly, optimization.
It's so creative, the optimizations that you can do with speedrunning. There's nothing inherently impressive about that.
No.
It's just nice to see how the game flows even better, thinking about all the little things. In a little Zelda game where you maybe don't think about your movement all over the place, I'm just going to cut it out. I'm just going to throw a boomerang over there instead of me spending the 2 seconds walking to the right and then the 2 seconds walking back. No, I'm just going to throw it, and it's going to catch up to me by the time I get there. So that always stuck with me. It was the first time I ever really saw a speedrun strat, and ever since that, I guess, I always wanted to find little optimizations in games. How do I cut out little excessive movements?
Yeah.
I found the Speed Demos Archive community in 2004. And I remember every day I was going to college at that point, always going on and seeing updates of when runs would come up. And it wasn't until 2006 when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out where I said, I want to do a speedrun of Kingdom Hearts 2. It had just come out. I could beat the game in like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Since then, people have beaten it in under 4, so it's gotten a lot better since then. But I was kind of, I give myself a little bit of credit. I was almost like a pioneer going out and just trying stuff out. And
True.
Slowly, I only used a couple tools in that game. And slowly but surely, more and more people came in that community. Now the Kingdom Hearts speedrun community is massive. It's like 100 people.
Yeah.
And everybody's contributing little strategies to it. It's where like, oh, this thing where I only use like 3 or 4 of the tools in the game, now they use every single tool in the game practically. And now you can beat the game in under 4 hours. If you play the new Final Mix PS4 version where all the loading screens are a lot faster, people can beat it in under 3 hours.
Wow.
So it's gone to great places since then. But
and it's a super cool community too. And I've watched a lot of Kingdom Hearts run, and it's always fun to see how I don't know how to say this, but they're more than passionate about their game. I mean, every community is passionate about their game, but there's something really impressive and really visceral about the Kingdom Hearts speedrunners, and I really enjoy how they get passionate talking about it.
Yes.
Even in the marathon setting where they're not necessarily with the rest of their own community, they just it oozes passion, and it's really, really easy to get along the ride and have fun, and I really enjoy that.
I've always said the Kingdom Hearts speedruns are some of my favorite ones because especially Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, the 2 main series games that I'm very passionate about, they're not inherently simple speedruns. It's not hold right and jump. And even though I love 2D platformers, I do a lot of hold right and jumps, but it's just the fact that they're so not simple. They're so dynamic in all the different sorts of strategies you use. Like I said, I use 2 or 3 of the tools in that game, just a couple of the basic things. Like, oh, this is fast enough. And slowly people found, if we actually use this very specific tool in this very specific position in this fight, then all of a sudden it speeds up the fight a little bit. So it's
Yeah.
watching as this like big puzzle comes together. And that's why I know you said you're a big RPG fan.
Yeah.
What I love about RPG speedruns is that because they're so not simple, you feel like you're creating this puzzle where, okay, it actually makes it a little faster if I go off here in the corner and I pick up this item that I might not use for 3 more hours on another boss or in preparation for this fight coming up.
Exactly.
It's going to help me with this grinding section or something. So even though, yes, they're much longer speedruns, the way they're constructed, and when you get the Kingdom Hearts community where we're a big, passionate community, like you're saying, it creates some really nice, I know people always laugh at this, but I say art. With how speedrunning can come together.
Absolutely. And I agree about that. There's definitely... this is a discussion I had a lot with people, the people my guests and the show, but also other people as well. And the fact that speedrunning is not only about getting at the top of the leaderboard, to me, makes it greater than just some kind of an esport. And I think it could be an esport, and it could be just about... Like, you could hide, you find something new into your game, and you could hide it, and try to keep your card close to you, to your chest, to make sure that nobody gets to the top of the leaderboard. But it's not what it is with speedrunning. You find something new, you'd be so happy and hyped to go into the Discord, and disclose it to everybody else, and it creates something that is community-driven. It's also some kind of an esport or some kind of a competition, but there's also some kind of a piece of art, like you said. This is definitely the... especially with marathons today, it needs to also be interesting to watch, and I think the artsy part comes in there, and the mix of those 3 things, to me, makes speedrunning interesting and more than the sum of its 3 parts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% agree.
So, okay, Kingdom Hearts is the first step you make in the world of speedrunning. You were always there in the background, but right now you're, do you stream at that point?
No, so streaming really wasn't a big thing until, I mean, I know there was like the Justin.tv days, the Ustream days. I personally did not get into the streaming world. I didn't even really know it existed until 2010.
Okay.
Where Speedrunners Archive decided, hey, let's start a little Games Done Quick event. Yeah. That was inspired by some other speedrunning event going on. I think the Speed Gamers inspired them. And they started in Mike Uyama's basement in 2010 with classic Games Done Quick. There was like 20 people at that event. And I watched it a little bit on and off. And what was so cool to me about it back then, as someone who had been following speedrunning for 6 years, was all of a sudden I got to watch these speedruns with audio commentary. I got to all of a sudden see, oh, that's how they did that.
Yeah.
Something I had seen them do in like a Mega Man speedrun 4 years prior. All of a sudden I understood and I appreciated that. And I said, now I understand a little bit. Maybe I can't do it with my own hands right now. I need to work at it. But like, I much more understand conceptually how they make this character clip out of bounds or fly through the air or whatever any of these tricks are. Just simply how they make this boss die so quickly. It can happen so fast you don't realize it. So I decided then in 2011 they had a Summer Games Done Quick, which was much easier for me to go to. It's much easier lining up with what my with what my schedule was with schooling at the time. And I said, I want to go out to that. It was one of the first times I'd ever been on a plane by myself. And went out to Salt Lake City, went to Essentia's house, 2011. And my goal at the time, I grew up an actor and entertainer. So I said, well, I really want to present this well. And like we said, I got a lot better over the years. But I at least wanted to make sure that I was very informative, that I made people appreciate. I ran Rayman 2 at that event, and I ran Kingdom Hearts 2. Nice. Just making sure people understood. Now, we're doing this strategy because of X, Y, and Z, because the boss will actually break out if you do it earlier than this. We have to wait till this amount of health is left. Rayman 2, I'm going over to this direction because it actually skips this other section, blah, 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 whatever. And I had a lot of people praise me for just how much commentary I gave, because it was not the standard back then that everybody gave commentary. I'm not talking trash on anybody else.
No, of course, but the concept was still being built upon, so it's normal that not everybody was doing the same thing, and then you realize, oh, well, it's doing that, and it's a good idea, so I should do the same. It's normal that in the beginning it's different, yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that kind of mixed with, like, my need to be a goofball, being a little bit of an entertainer, coming from an acting background. I had no inhibitions about putting myself out there on stream on the internet in front of what was at the time a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
So then I ended up in 2012. After 2011, they recommended, oh, you should get into streaming. Streamed all of 2012 for like 7 viewers. At the time, Twitch wasn't nearly as big, and speedrunning people didn't really. I mean, the games got done quick. We had our little community of a couple thousand people. Before you know it, today there are 100 to 200,000 people watching the GDQs at all times.
Yeah.
You got hundreds and hundreds of channels that are partnered on Twitch that are making revenue off of it. Many people are able to make it full-time jobs for them, including myself. But yeah, I would say it was 2013 at AGDQ where I probably got discovered really by a large amount of people. AGDQ was just a much more watched event than SGDQ at the time.
Sure.
And I ran Rayman 1 and Final Fantasy 9 there, and I guess that's where people got to know me. Really went in with my commentary. There was a lot of stuff I wanted to explain about those games. Final Fantasy 9 was the finale of the event, so it was kind of at the forefront.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of how I got to know so many people at these GDQs and build so many good work-style relationships, but also so many good friendships over the years.
Yeah.
Now I've kind of become a social butterfly at these events, and people always say, "Oh, when are we gonna hang out? When are we gonna hang out? When are we gonna hang out?" I'm like, I'm a social butterfly. I've hung out with like almost too many people, but I don't regret any.
No, it's just all in good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta find the time.
Exactly. Can we go back a little bit, because you talk about commentary, and I haven't expanded on that with anybody right now, and I think you would be really, really well placed that we have a discussion about this. To me, commentary is what made speedrunning accessible.
Yes.
I was there during the Speedrun Live time where you would just go into the site and there would be like, I don't know, 20, 25 boxes where you would click on someone and you would start it, some kind of a Twitch, but like just for speedrunning. It was super interesting and I really enjoyed that. Some would do commentary, most wouldn't. And it wasn't always easy to follow. Like, mostly the most popular person were the people who were reacting heavily, like being really happy when they did something cool, or being very upset when they missed something, and only that would be enough so that people would follow this person instead of somebody else. But like you said, I cannot remember which year, probably 2014 or something like this, commentary became, actually to me, I discovered that during the marathon, commentary was really good and really interesting, and it was starting to become a thing. Now, I would draw the parallel with esports again. Esports got shoutcasters. And the same applied exactly in the same way for me. And I started to watch esport when esport started to have dedicated and well-trained shoutcasters. And when their new esports get out, a new game get out, and the esport starts, I generally cannot get into the bandwagon or the hype train up until they have built something more... a better structure, something more solid, and their shoutcasters get really good at describing the game.
Sure.
So it might seem like it's not necessarily a part of it, but actually it might be the best part of it. I can remember, let's talk about the hold right and then press A side-scrollers, okay?
Sure.
Somebody would just jump, and jump again, and I would just look at it and I'd be, that's really cool. But then somebody on the couch would say, or the person running, yeah, but the last one he did was actually pixel perfect.
Right.
And it's actually kind of hard to do because there's not necessarily a setup, like you cannot align with a cloud or something to decide when he jumps. And I'd be like, oh, that's actually an impressive jump. And I'm supposed to be impressed by that. And then I become impressed. It works. But if I would just look at it, I'd be like, yeah, he's holding right and presses A. And he just do not get hit by any obstacle or enemies. And yeah, that's cool. But it becomes so more powerful with a good commentary that, yeah, I know why it's the staple now, and it made it become, like, I show speedrunning to a lot of friends, and they are not necessarily into the speedrunning world, and I see myself in their eyes when I was starting to watch speedruns. They only appreciate it when they have good commentaries. And now when I watch a run that I have watched before, I don't necessarily need it, but I still enjoy it a lot. Especially if the person on the other side is really good at it.
Sure. And you get to the point, what I always compare it to is actually like regular sports.
Sure.
Where I think when people get into, like, you start watching football or soccer or baseball or whatever, there's just this inherent, like, first, just visually, it's interesting. It's, very kinetic. Oh, okay, I can appreciate when a guy jumps up, 10 feet in the air and catches the ball. When someone's able to hit a ball really far. Yeah. But I think there's, like, that extra layer to it where, and I've always believed in this, make your audience smarter. Make them savvy about whether it's sports or speedrunning or whatever. You have sportscasters all the time. Really, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress how hard what he just did was, or she did was.
Yeah.
That is so much more difficult. You have to be so strong to be able to do that. Or you have to have lightning quick reflexes. The fact that he was able to read what that guy was going to do, whatever it was. And I believe the same thing with speedrunning, where, yes, you can just watch me play Mario 64 and like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm jumping and diving all over the place, and that looks cool. But understanding why what I did was really, really hard, or why it all flows together really well, or appreciate the routing process. I find that over the years, people who I know have watched a lot of speedrunning, including myself, we can now watch a speedrun of a game that we've never played and still appreciate it, I think, a lot more than how I would have appreciated it 15 years ago, before I really became speedrun savvy, before I understood all these little nuances about everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the commentary I said. I'm going to make sure my audience, maybe they won't understand all of it. It'll still ultimately go over a lot of people's heads.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do my best to get them to understand the little bits of it and knowing how to feed it to them. You don't want to tell them everything, or it's just information overload. Say, okay, I've got this boss fight coming up in Kingdom Hearts 2 right now. Let me pick out 1 to 3 things that I'm going to tell them that they're going to be able to visually see. Make sure you don't just tell them after it happens. Make sure you tell them before it happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, coming up here, the boss is about to try to do this big super attack. We're going to position ourselves in this corner right over here because it's going to manipulate the boss to do X, Y, and Z. And then they watch that happen. They watch the boss try to do a super attack. They watch the player go in the corner, and they see how it manipulates them. Now, I think the vast majority of gamers, anyone who's applying themselves at all, they're going to understand that somewhat. They're going to, they saw that and they saw the reason for why we did that. And also, then all of a sudden, like, yeah, they're going to appreciate it. Go for it.
No, sorry. But I was going to say that you can appreciate a game you've never played because of commentary, like you said. But it's twice as powerful if you've played it before. Let's say, your Kingdom Hearts boss I would have played and I would have died to it 20 times in a row. And then I see you manipulate him and then you beat him, like, so easily because he always do what you want. And you're actually the puppet master in the background. And I'm like, seriously? Like, I died to that 20 times, and now it looks so easy, and it might get me to go back to the game and try it, and I think this is a really powerful thing.
I love when I hear people say, like, I went and tried that strategy myself, and I got it first try. Like, that's super, super cool to me.
But let's go back to the sports metaphor, or the fact that you were talking about making your audience smarter. I think a lot of people appreciate that, and especially in speedrunning. But if we go back to, I think there's also, as a commentator or a shoutcaster, something really interesting, which is making a story, which is not always necessary, but it's always fun if you can do it. Let's say we talk baseball and the batters go up to the plate, and he's gonna hit the ball as hard as he can, and ends of the story, people will clap, and that's the end of the day. But you could also, as a shoutcaster, just say, like, the last time this batter and this pitcher have met, the pitcher made like 3 strikes, he got him out, and it was actually soul crushing for the guy. And he's here for redemption, and or just build a story like that. And then the people are like, oh yeah, I want to see him get the ball and just hit it so hard, and I want to see him get its redemption story. It so happened, episode 6 for my podcast is with G-Virus, where he would go to an AGDQ playing Axiom Verge, and then the game he would have put VSync on for the first time just to put up a good show, and he would have realized later that the VSync actually made the game load in different ways, and then most of his strats wouldn't work anymore. And then he got picked up for SGDQ 2 years later, and he would get back to play the same game, but now there's a story. Like, the guy who actually got crushed on stage.
He has a redemption story.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, because I watched both runs, when the second run started, I was so much more hyped. And yeah, he just had to say a few words before. I actually saw the run earlier, so I knew what he was going to do. And actually, what was his redemption story? But it made it so more powerful, right?
Absolutely.
And I talk about also that guy a lot, but to me, the run of Momodora from Half Coordinated was so much powerful also, considering like the emotion he brought to the table, but also the fact that he plays only with one hand and he actually is so much better than I am in that game. This is really impressive, and it's a story in itself. I would have seen just the screen and not his face or his hands, and it would have just been gameplay, right? Still impressive. But there was a story there that I really enjoyed, and
I mean that shows us our culture. Like, we are, at the end of the day, we're all humans. And we're all. I think the vast majority of people in this world, we're rooting for others, and that's just, we hear that story, and all of a sudden, it's more than just I care. Like, I'm just gonna watch the gameplay happen on screen. Okay, I'm watching a video game, watching effectively what's just a really fast let's play in a way for a lot of people. Now all of a sudden I have something else that I'm rooting for. Just getting to watch Half Coordinate the story of a guy who grew up. He's very competitive in all the games he plays, and he plays with one hand because of a disability he has. So watching that happen, it's very inspirational. And I know for a lot of people that those always become some of their favorite runs of the marathon. Seeing him able to do all this stuff that I don't know if I could do with 2 hands.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, he's a cool dude. Okay, so your introduction to speedrunning and then commentary. That's a really interesting thing. But then you never stop being a runner. You're also both a runner and a presenter. And even though... and you actually play a lot of games, too. I've seen you run... Yeah, but that's impressive. I mean, you still have to learn the route for a lot of them. And it's not all short games. I mean, I've seen you run with Evil Ash 25, 6 or 7 hour run of Chrono Cross, right?
Yep. That's Chrono Cross to this day is still one of my absolute favorite RPGs of all time. It was one of those at the time when Evil Ash and I said, oh, let's finally sit down and learn this. And it's mostly Evil Ash routed that game. It was just around the same time we happened to go in together. It's his route. Like, he's the one who did it.
Okay.
But I was able to steal his route and get to play it myself. And get to beat that game in 7 hours. And, 7 hours sounds like a lot of time. But for this game that was, a 30, 40-hour RPG, finding out how in a day I could beat the whole thing and have these, actually relatively consistent strategies to be able to do everything. These really well planned out. You've played the game yourself, obviously.
Sure.
These really well planned out boss fights in this turn-based RPG where there's so much variety to it. What elements you use, whether you use stronger physicals, weaker physicals, the medium ones, how you manipulate your stamina to be able to get refilled at different times. It makes the boss fights actually, just like the fighting in general, really, really interesting in that game. And very fight to fight.
And I really enjoyed the Miguel fight, especially because it's a really tough one. And I remember always dying at least once to that place and then having to load so far back. And I really, really enjoyed the way you manipulated that. And it was really interesting trying to play around the field of effect. And that was cool.
Yeah, there's so many little factors to keep track of again. And yeah, he's one. The fight you just brought, Miguel, he is one of the hardest fights, definitely.
True.
He's one of them where it can go in a very bad direction, even in the speedrun, because we're there much lower level than you would be if you were playing the game casually. So there's countless amounts of backup strategies that you have to go into. Oh no, if he does this to this character, well, I need to change the whole strategy around. You have the route in front of you, the battle strategy. You just completely throw that out the window and you bring up a completely new one.
Exactly.
So,
and sometimes you
even though speedrunners complain about RNG or the random number generator randomness in a video game all the time, sometimes those create the most interesting aspects of, well, now I can't do muscle memory. I have to throw out this strategy. I have to use something completely different all of a sudden. So seeing speedrunners who know how to adapt on the fly to when stuff does go off script effectively, that's really, really fun to watch.
I completely agree, and I think that the runners themselves also really enjoy that. I mean, it tests them in other ways, and I think this is why we have so much of a randomizer craze of late, is that people want to be tested in different ways. And I think we will talk about that a little bit later also in the show. It might be related in some way. Okay, so let's talk about presenting then. I think this is a really interesting thing. What would be your experience with the GDQ being a presenter? So I know you have a background in theater, and I think we will talk about that a little bit later too. But how did it start? Like, I know you were just probably a charismatic guy, but was it enough? Was there someone approached you to tell you, yeah, we want you on stage?
Gosh, I remember because again, I think there was the only thing, like, avenue you had at GDQs to go down if you wanted to be a presenter really of any sort, other than, of course, being a runner, couch commentary, you can do that stuff, was you could be a host where you would, read off people's donations. And, but I always, when I did hosting, I tried to really not make it about myself.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm lending my voice, my vocal cords, to the people donating who they want to tell a story about how, they lost a family member to cancer, or just saying how much they're really enjoying the run, or maybe some goofy little pun they want to say or something. So I really tried to not make it about myself.
Yeah.
It wasn't until myself, Golden, and Darkman, who ran our own podcast, The Final Split, years ago, it wasn't until we kind of got together and decided we would really like to do interviews at GDQs. We think a pre-show and interviews would all be like a really, really fun thing to do. Get to interview runners in between, ask them how the run went, ask them what other stuff they plan on doing that week, what they're going to be doing on stream, ask them their thought process during the run, all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
And then a pre-show, I always think about like College Game Day for college football, how they would go live before all the football games for the day and get to talk about, all right, we got this game coming up. Who do you think's going to win? What are the big storylines of the day? So having that pre-show for a GDQ, what are the big runs we want to watch out for the week? All right, if you're only going to watch like 5 runs, you're going to watch these ones right here. Make sure to check out this big bid war coming up. We got awesome prizes that we're going to be able to give out throughout the marathon if you donate, all sorts of little things to do. So it was kind of our idea back in like 2014, I think we first came up with the idea. And in 2015, Summer Games Done Quick was the first time we actually put it in motion. And, we had a little table that wasn't well lit off in the corner with a little white drape on it. And then finally, like, now we are here today where we have this amazing backdrop. We have really comfy couches we sit on. Everything's well lit. The interviews, you can tell, are just a lot better. The interview crew, we're passionate. We've worked on it a lot more. It's great to see where it's gone since then. But yeah, that was really the start of the whole thing, was our idea. And then them saying, oh, this really helps that just in between runs, instead of just watching 5 to 20 minutes anywhere in that group of time.
Yeah.
People messing with cables and just nothing going on.
And DS Dad.
And DS Dad, or kids dabbing on stream or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There was actually like something to entertain the audience, to keep them interested a little bit until the next run comes on.
Oh, you can remove the little bit. It works really well. And the pre-show in
That's
itself,
awesome.
yeah, the pre-show in itself is a really interesting part, and I really like the sports terminology you use, and the fact that you actually said if there's only 5 matches you have to watch, today are the one. You're putting a spotlight on the things, and then, like we said earlier, the people have a reason to go and watch those runs, and now they have a stake in the game. They want to watch and see that person succeed because X or Y reason you will talk about. I really like the fact that you also choose run that you just enjoy personally, and then you go around the table to, I want to see that run because I just like the game or just like the guy, actually. And it makes it much more alive, much more, breathing, and it's really interesting to see that. I really enjoyed the implementation of that idea for the marathon, and if it was your idea and your friend's idea, good job, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Super passionate about it at the time. For years, we knew this would be good. This would be a good thing to do. We always just wanted to see GDQ grow as not just a stage to get to show speedrunning, but, again, I know I always go back to sports, but it would probably start off as something, back in the day when people came up with the concept of football or baseball or whatever. That it was just this little game that people played. And, slowly but surely, people wanted to come and watch those people play those games. And then now, I go to Dallas Cowboy football games. My little sister's a cheerleader for them. Little name drop there.
Nice.
And it's this huge production all of a sudden. The football game's this little tiny thing that happens in the middle of all of it. But all the they have the halftime show where a concert will play. The cheerleaders are doing their thing. People are walking around just with their kids, getting drinks.
Yeah,
doing happen. Whatever getting food and stuff. There's so much other stuff going on. And GDQs have now become that where, we have the interviews, we have the pre-show, there's an arcade there that people can go and play in. There's just lots of little casual tournaments that happen there. Panels just started this past GDQ. All of a sudden, it became this much more fun, entertaining event to come to, where speedrunning is at the focus of it. We've always kept speedrunning the focus.
Yes.
But it just allows people these other avenues to, I don't think get distracted from the speedrunning, but allow themselves to get drawn in and then care about the speedrunning, hopefully on top of all that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it always stayed at the top of the importance list. And that's a success, of course. No, I've never heard of somebody just going there to play the arcades. You go there because you want to watch speedrun, and then at some point you might need to go and grab food, or maybe the run that's just happening is not necessarily your favorite, so you might want to go and unwind a little bit. So they're there, and the small tournaments are cool too. I always get to learn about them a little bit later on, but it just so happens to be there. It's not necessarily the focus, so that's really well made, All right.
Awesome.
Can we go back a little bit more on the personal side of things?
Sure.
Let's talk about education. After... what was your first time you decided to go into a course? Was it theater directly?
Yeah. So I guess it was in high school. Yeah, sure. Sophomore year of high school. I first cared when I was a little kid. I always throw this out there. I know I became an entertainer. I was an actor. When I was a little kid, I was terrified of the stage. I never wanted. I remember we'd have just little events where the kids would have to get up in front of their parents and just read this little poem. And I couldn't do it. I was terrified. I didn't want to be anywhere near that. I never got up on stage. I was the only kid in class who didn't do it. And then somewhere in my teenage years, I got to where I cared about stand-up comedy. Nice. I did it at a talent show, and the first time I heard someone laugh at me, and not laugh at me, but laugh with me, and laugh at just how goofy I was and everything, I said, I am addicted to this. I need this. I need this reassurance in my life. So I got into theater in high school, did all the high school, the plays and everything. I always played all the big roles. And
nice.
Then when I got to college, I said, well, I need to be a theater major. So I got in there and got to do quite a few shows. I had to go through a little bit of getting told I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
my freshman year of college, and thankfully my sophomore year, I just never stopped auditioning. Just kept, I kept looking forward,
Yeah.
making sure I was doing what I had to do to prep myself, eventually get cast. And then thankfully I was very lucky. I made a lot of good connections and got to be in a ton of shows throughout my college life.
Oh, nice.
I always imagine myself that, I think like a lot of younger kids are, that, oh, well, I'm now gonna move to Broadway, or I'm gonna move to Hollywood, I'll move to Chicago or something,
Sure.
where I'm gonna get to work in theater and film or something. And it got to the point where speedrunning kind of seeped into my life right as I was getting out of college.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of sitting here now. I feel like I still get to be an entertainer every single day. Because people ask me all the time, oh, did you feel like you kind of gave up on your dream?
No.
Not getting to be on theater. I said, I feel like I was always more of an entertainer than just a pure actor, even though I love the process of acting. I love lending my voice, like I said, lending my voice and my physicality and everything to any character I ever played on stage. But I would still say at the end of the day, I was more of just a pure entertainer than an actor. And this gave me an avenue to get to be an entertainer in front of people without having to move to Chicago or without moving to New York or LA and starve, having to fight to make ends meet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, theater's a part of my life that, while I have probably closed the book on that, I'll always miss it. I love it. I loved all the years of tours that I got to go on, all the Shakespeare in the Park that I got to do. I'm just a big fan of it. And they were my main course of studies. I was a fine student. I was your standard B+, A- student.
Okay.
I was bright enough, but I never really applied myself to most of my studies, I would say, until I became passionate about theater. I had this desire to understand how to entertain people and how to give them that escapism, that release from their everyday life where they're frustrated at work or they're frustrated at whatever, and give them something to be entertained by at the end of the day. And I always viewed that as something that was very, very important as a part of life. So.
And it's super fun to have that kind of oasis, and I've talked about that with Yagamot on episode 1. Some kind of a place where people can go and unwind, and it's super nice and super interesting to see that people are ready to just, like you said, it's a fast let's play, I'm going to practice that, it's going to be fun, but actually the interaction with your chat, with your stream, makes it that people feel part of a community and a family, and it's, I think Twitch is harder to build a community like that because it's some kind of a fickle place, and I don't want to say that as a mean thing, but Twitch is kind of a fickle place in that sense. But when you work hard and you end up being able to build a family, these people will watch you every day for the rest of their lives.
Until I became a full-time Twitch streamer just a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, I was always on tours throughout the year. Where we go around to different high schools around the state of Arkansas, where I grew up, and a few in the surrounding states. And we would do a play for them, little kind of educational sketch comedies. As weird as that sounds, imagine like SNL sketches.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
So we would go there, and then a lot of times, while I loved being on stage and getting to do the play, some of my favorite aspects was actually afterwards, because that was what was different every day, was when we would go out then and we get to talk to the audience. And we just sit on the stage, and they'd ask all the actors, okay, what do you do to prepare for the show? Are you guys, just little goofy things in high school, are you two actually dating? Because we were like lovers on stage.
Okay, yeah.
But it was really fun getting to answer those questions, realizing, all right, these kids aren't just like watching us up here, stand up here and be goofy. They were all of a sudden like they were engaged in the process of how this was all built. And so I think Twitch is one of the only avenues where all of a sudden you get to directly interact with your audience the entire time. And that's always what's going to make Twitch unique. YouTube, you have your audience afterwards in your comments section. Obviously, people who are entertainers or athletes, they get to find out later on based on what people put on like a forum or Twitter or whatever. I get that immediate interaction with my audience right now. Oh, it's like I get to ask my favorite athlete or my favorite actor or whatever, oh, why do you do this? And you get that immediate interaction right back all of a sudden. I love that about Twitch, and it's something that I think has always kept me coming back to Twitch. As an entertainer myself.
And it's not just a question of getting it faster, like the answer. I mean, I think there's something like the disconnection of me asking you, like in the comment section of a YouTube video, let's say that. It's as if I was asking the comment section. The comment section was asking you, and then there's a middleman here that's make a disconnection. And that's all right. I mean, the comment section in a YouTube video works, and it's awesome. But there's something really powerful in me being in my home, probably in my underwears, just watching somebody play a game, and I'll be like, why did he do that? Or do we appreciate this game that he's playing right now? And I can just type it, clack, and then 3 seconds later, oh yeah, thank you, Send Knight, for asking me that question. Yeah, I actually appreciate the game. This is a direct interaction, and this is like, it's not also how can I say this? It's the video I would show on YouTube, like from a content creator. Most of the time, it's edited. It's a final product. But when I see somebody stream on Twitch, this is actually live broadcasting. I know you can do that on YouTube, but you understand the difference here. If there's a boo-boo, if there's something happening, it's happening right here, right there. And it makes it more, the flow is different, and I really enjoy that,
Right. And it's something even, because obviously I love that people are into the process, that it's less often that people ask, like, oh, why did you do that? And I always tell people I love answering questions like that. But even just that, like, reassurance of, like I said, I love when people laugh at me. I love being a clown. I love, because if you make someone laugh, you only made their day better. Like, I can't think of an instance where I made someone laugh and it somehow made their day worse. I only made their day better. So even just seeing people lol, LMAO, ha 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 ha, people putting a funny emote in chat, when something happens on stream, when either I say something funny, I say something stupid, I fail in a video game, it's fun to have that immediate, like, yeah, that was a goofy thing that happened right there. I'm not having to sit here and wait till later on. Did people enjoy that? Getting that immediate feedback effectively from the audience is really, really powerful to me, and really just fun to see, like, okay, it made it all kind of worth it that I failed in the video game.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fun to see that you know how to own it too, and I think this is a really important skill to have if you want to stream in live or just make videos in general. If somebody's gonna laugh at what happened, you need to own it and be like, yeah, that happened. That was funny. I did a boo-boo, and that's just, and not get, like, angry at yourself. And I've seen streamers get angry at themselves. I won't name anybody, of course, but it makes it really harder to watch. I think there's really, you just have to, I did something wrong, so that's funny, right? And people will laugh with you instead of you. And I really always appreciate that you, like you said, you're some kind of a clown, but you're self-aware that you are, and you just own it. That's cool.
Yeah. You have to, and I let it go sometimes too. Sometimes I do get frustrated because I like to also think of myself as someone who, like when I worked in theater, I worked really, really hard. I worked really, really hard to, be as good of an actor as I could be, to be the best I could do, or be the best person I could be for the character and the role I was playing. So there's sometimes where I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I feel like I put in a lot of work and I want to get these things right. So I understand why runners go to those darker places where they beat themselves up and they're just very, very frustrated. You have rage. It's really hard when someone cares so much about something to then just be like, okay, well, whatever, haha, it happens. That's part of being a human, I think.
Yes.
So sometimes I almost accept when I do watch a streamer get really frustrated at something, and I can see past it's not just you being a baby. I can see
of course.
I'm feeling like I just didn't get it, and I'm frustrated at myself. I think that's just another human aspect that sometimes it's actually interesting for me to watch, but I understand for the vast majority of people, they don't want to watch that. They want to see want to see you happy all the time. But, we're humans. Sometimes we can't just be happy all the time. So it's really interesting that
No, actually, I find it's really interesting that, like, you're actually saying that this is part of being a human, not all right, but like it's building a story also, and I think you might be actually onto something there.
Sure.
If I see him fail and actually get rage, which is actually only natural, when he actually will end up having it, his emotion will probably just be tenfold because of all the hard time he had with it.
Absolutely. It's we keep going back to storylines, and that builds something right there that now it's not just this like, okay, I'm watching you play a video game fast, you're really good at it. Now, when I get back to that spot that made me really frustrated, that I died to, because, man, I never die there. I worked so hard. I practiced that for like 2 hours off stream the other day. Now when you see me get it, now it's, yes! It's not just this neutral feeling. They're now emotionally invested in you getting it as well.
That's true.
That's cool feeling like it's not just me. I'm glad all you guys are here to support me as well and make sure this happened. I wouldn't be here doing this if it weren't for you guys, taking this in as entertainment. It kind of makes it also like a team thing that we did.
Yeah, that's true. We've talked about that a lot with the other guests as well. The fact that you get the same exact concept as you would for a fan of sports that would watch a match and would be really happy and cheering and egging on the sports team to win a championship or something. And you get the exact same concept with speedrunning, where you actually end up, like you said, being emotionally invested in the success of the speedrunners in front of you, even though I am not necessarily achieving anything. And I'm maybe only supporting, but that might be a big thing actually. But it's a lot of fun to see like somebody else achieve something, and I'm feeling like part of a family when it happens, and it's super fun.
Absolutely. It just keeps going back to that community aspect we keep bringing up, that Twitch until someone else becomes successful in the streaming world, Twitch kind of has a monopoly on creating that kind of a feeling between a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially around video games.
That's cool. We'll move on then to talk a little bit about what's in the future of SpikeVegeta. What is the next thing you want to tackle? And I want to do it both in speedrunning and outside of speedrunning.
Yeah. Right now I just moved in with a good friend of mine, Jay Hobbs, 296.
Oh, yeah. No jail.
And by the time this podcast is out there, this won't be nearly as much of a secret, but we are creating a channel together. We're wanting to create a lot of content around speedrunning and video games in general, maybe even like movie talk here and there, because I know we're both passionate about film.
Nice.
We're looking to work on that. I also just started seeing new girlfriend.
Nice.
She's awesome. We've only known each other for a couple months, but it's already been made kind of serious. So we'll see where that goes in life.
Wish you the best, both.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's hard in the streaming world because for the most part, I was never a person that wanted to do a long distance relationship. She actually lives in Chicago. I'm living all the way in Virginia right now.
Yeah.
Those two states are not really close to each other.
No.
But I don't know. It's one of those people in life where I actually want to go ahead and make it work somehow. It's probably just good enough we're going to be living together at some point. But
nice.
It's really nice when you find that connection, because for the most part in the internet world, you try to look around more, but there also aren't a lot of females in our community, I would say. Yeah. It's still more like male dominated, at least in the speedrunning community. I don't want to make it sound like, I finally found like the one girl. I kind of magically found this connection with her. And,
really cool.
That's been really nice to run into. But outside of personal, the love and everything, speedrunning wise, I've been putting a lot of work into Super Mario Odyssey lately. Game's been out for a year, and I absolutely adore that game. I just think moving Mario in that game is so unbelievably fun, and actually understanding how to optimize your movement from one moon to the next moon is so much fun to do.
Yeah.
It's like I said, just little stuff like you throw a boomerang and you cut out 4 seconds of walking all of a sudden.
Yeah, and you have a boomerang in Mario Odyssey.
In a way, yeah, you actually do have something that is a boomerang, having this like projectile of sorts in Cappy.
Yeah,
it makes it so dynamic, the movement in that game. So I've been working on that a lot lately. Looking forward to doing a couple of runs of that here pretty soon. Getting through the Zelda Ocarina of Time randomizer tournament, which is where, for anyone who doesn't know, you take the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and you randomize everything. You take all of the items and the songs in the game and you mix them up in a big pool with one another. And now you just have to go out in the world and you have to find everything you need in order to get into Ganon's castle and defeat Ganon.
Yeah.
And people do it as races all the time. It's you trying to, at the end of the day, really like complete this puzzle of sorts.
Yeah.
While also being good at moving Link across the map, defeating enemies very quickly, killing bosses as quickly as you can, solving the puzzles very quickly, and that being different every single time because you might have a completely different item set going into one room than you would otherwise.
Exactly, yeah.
So in a tournament right now for that, trying to qualify for the top 16 at this point. I have some work to do in that right now because we haven't done particularly well in those first 4 weeks. I'm like in 22nd place.
Okay.
Out of a couple hundred people. So it's like, it's okay. But by my standards, I want to make top 16.
Okay, so, good luck on that then.
Thank you. I'm focusing on that right now. And then once that's over, going to put a lot more focus into both Super Mario Odyssey and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which I'm actually going to be running at GDQ Express coming up at TwitchCon here at the end of October.
And can't wait to see that. I have actually seen you practice all those 3 games, and of course there's a lot of Zooter, so Ocarina of Time Randomizer right now. But I gotta say that the Switch version of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, with I think it's Funky Kong, its name?
Yes.
This is actually especially impressive. The things that you can do with this character, and you're never stopping advancing. No matter what the obstacle in front of you, you're always going forward max speed.
Yeah, you hit that top speed, and like obviously, you're trying to keep that top speed the whole time. And with his double jump mechanic, he can actually keep that momentum pretty much the whole way. As long as you're not hitting the ground, you can conserve some intense momentum off of everything. So it's really cool what they gave Funky Kong in that game, the tools that then as speedrunners, we make it this really complicated, crazy routing through every single level. So.
Yeah, exactly, because the character, if I remember correctly, has been created to being like some kind of a cheat character, like he's much more powerful. He's got the power of a few of the characters. Yeah,
definitely easy mode. I think casually, if you're playing through the game, he's got an infinite hover ability.
Yeah.
He's got the double jump to save himself. He doesn't take damage from spikes. But as speedrunners, we take it and we find the complications in that. Say, all right, if you're going to give me all these tools, now I'm going to push the game even harder.
Exactly.
I'm going to try to be never hovering anywhere because it eats all my momentum. I don't want to land in the spikes because he just gets stuck in them and is as opposed to taking damage. So you still don't. Spikes are still a hazard you want to dodge.
Yeah.
So, Funky Kong is absolutely awesome. I can't wait to get to show him off to the Games Done Quick audience at TwitchCon on October 26th.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you do that too. Okay, so we'll talk about Mario Odyssey a little bit more later on too, but I think it draws a very good picture of who you are as a person. Was there something else that you wanted to talk about, or maybe think you wanna like you said that you would make some kind of a show? Would it be a YouTube show with J Hobbs?
Yeah, we're looking at potentially, because I feel like YouTube is a very untapped market as far as speedrunning is concerned. I think only a couple of people. I know Summoning Salt has been doing like the world record progression videos.
Yeah,
where he'll take a game. Mario 64. Let's see, where was it 15 years ago when people first started posting speedruns?
Yeah,
and kind of where has it progressed to now? Those videos are really, really awesome, really good production value. Hobbs and I would like to do the same thing with our show. Obviously, different concepts.
Sure.
But just do something to make the YouTube audience more aware of speedrunning outside of just basically what they see off of Games Done Quick videos that are posted.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of bouncing around a bunch of different ideas. Something where I would like to do a show where it's just we love speedruns. There's obviously that name is
work in progress.
The drawing board.
Yeah.
But something where like, okay, let's take a speed run and just break it down and look at like what is really cool about this speed run. All the movement tech they have right here, the routing potential, the fact that they found ways to skip all these cutscenes, these out of bounds tricks that they get to use all over the place. Really just taking a speed run and just saying like why we love that speed run. Why do we like running this speed game? So that's one of the concepts.
Oh, that's really interesting. I definitely watched that.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people would like to watch that. I think that's something cool. I mean, it takes a GDQ run as opposed to like seeing it live there in person. It kind of puts a different twist on it. Like, let's just really break it down and get analytical about this run and what are all the best aspects of it. So that's one of the videos. I mean, obviously we're starting off. We have not actually announced yet.
Yeah.
But those should hopefully be up here in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's cool.
We'll really get to explore a bunch of different games. So.
Okay, wish you the best in that direction then. And I know that you both, you Spike and J-Obs, which I really like too, as a runner, as a presenter. I think you would be really the best to do that, and I think that would bring something more to the table there.
That's awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think we definitely believe in ourselves that we can make people appreciate, or at least give people a chance to appreciate a speed run. So then it's up to them from there if they care enough.
Sure, makes sense. Okay, let's go to the shout-out section then, which is a little segment where I give you the chance to shout out someone that you just appreciate, but also the concept is that I will extend an invitation to the show to whoever you shout out. So it might be someone that you consider is criminally underrated, someone you just enjoy whatever just because, or is someone maybe you want to learn more about, like I mean outside of the Twitch or these just speedrunning in general. At the end of the day, it's your decision, but I really am interested to know you decided to shout out today. Yeah,
so the person because I put a lot of thought into it this week. Okay, who would I want to pull on? And I think I'm going to shout out Zem92. That's actually XEM92.
Okay.
He's an awesome speedrunner. He is one of the best Ratchet and Clank speedrunners in the world.
Nice.
Some people might not be as familiar with that series. It's super good for speedruns. It's amazing movement all over it. And he's dedicated most of his speedrunning time to those games, to kind of the main trilogy of that.
Nice.
And I think he currently streams for like a lot of times only around 100 or less than 100 viewers, which is more than most people stream for. But
sure.
I think he's an unbelievable entertainer. He's just a good guy in general. A lot of people probably might know him from when we do Kingdom Hearts runs at GDQ events. He actually will a lot of times be one of the main people we ask to come and sing songs for us, sing the Disney songs in between when we're like in gummy missions and stuff. He's actually a trained opera singer. He has the voice of an angel. He is awesome. And he's an entertainer. You can tell I've done little songs with him. We got other people who've done like duets with him, and he knows how to present the song. Like, yes, I've got this trained opera voice, but also I'm singing a Disney song. I'm singing the part of Gaston in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
Very, very good entertainer. Very, very strong speedrunner. He's got a beautiful voice. I would definitely give him a shout out. I think he would be a very interesting character study. That's something very unique that I imagine there's not a lot of trained opera singers in the speedrunning community.
And that's cool to see people taking their external, the thing they know, they're learned, or they've been trained about, bringing that into speedrunning, like the fact that you were an entertainer and a comedian. You did a little bit stand-up comedy, if I remember correctly. And you bring that to the table of speedrunning. I've known people to do, programming, and they will bring their programming knowledge to the speedrunning, and that's also interesting. But an opera singer is definitely something out there, and I cannot wait to ask him if he would be interested to be on the show. I'd really like to know how these things can collide, and actually it does, and I've seen him sing on stage at the GDQ event, but I'd really like to see like how it became a thing, and I really think it's super cool.
Yeah, you would think that'd be something that like, oh, let's not do that. It's not really about speedrunning, but it's them saying like, we're also just, again, I brought this up many times throughout this show, we're all humans at the end of the day.
Sure.
And that's just something that like, oh, I don't see that every day. Yeah, I want to see this guy sing. You can do that? Sure, absolutely. Let's
Hit me up, yeah.
go into that. Yeah. So.
That's really cool. All right, I think this will close the first part. Unless you wanted to touch on something else, I really like to give the chance to somebody to... If there's something I wouldn't think of asking you, but you might want to get asked. Or just talk about.
I hope more people who maybe watch the Games Done Quick events. I see, a couple 100,000 people there watching it. I hope anybody who maybe has watched those, and maybe you're watching this on YouTube, and that you would maybe find some way to like go on Twitch and check for the communities for speedrunning, or I think they're eventually going to do like a hashtag with it or something, like categories. I'm not 100% sure what's going to be then, but just look for speedrunning and find like, yeah, there's hundreds of thousands of people who watch the GDQ events, but then you get home and you watch people, just doing their own personal streams, and they're still streaming for like 30 people. Yeah. I'm one of those very fortunate people that I have a pretty good audience, a pretty good size audience. And I'd like to see just more and more speedrunners. They put in countless hours of work, and it warms my heart whenever I get to see a runner that I know. This actually happened with a good friend of mine, Timpani, who runs Super Mario Odyssey, like the longer categories. He got really discovered, and he's become very successful.
That's cool.
The last month or so. And I'm just like, I'm so happy because he puts in so much work. And for every one of him, there's 50 other speedrunners that put in that amount of work and are not discovered. And I hope more and more people just want to look out for that and just keep an eye on like, oh, even if it's just like, I'm not telling you to go watch it for some game you don't care about. But if you love Super Mario Odyssey, if you love Chrono Cross, if you love Donkey Kong, whatever it is, go search that game or something, find people speedrunning it, and maybe become a part of their community, maybe just become a lurker in there, and just give them that like one more viewer. Yeah. To just give them that much more of a chance to get pushed up the directory and be seen, be discovered, and really find a big audience.
And this is really something that I hope that will happen, of course, but also something that I hope that I can achieve at some point. This show is at its infant stage for now, but I really hope that if it gets big, I can give back to the guests by giving them more views. Somebody will come to look at the SpikeVegeta episode because he really likes you and he's a fan, but then he would say, oh, there's more episode, I could watch one, and then discover a new runner that he wouldn't know existed, and then I hope it would give them more numbers. And I think that that's a way I could repay the people for the generosity of accepting to come here on my show.
Absolutely. I hope more of my viewers come and find your show through that. It's like I said, the world. People always ask me like, "What's your recommendation for me to get big on Twitch or whatever?" Yeah. I say a lot of life in general is about connections. I got so much work after college in theater, in tours I did, in Shakespeare in the Park I did, and it was. Some of it because I was a good actor. I'll toot my own horn. I was a solid actor. But a lot of it's just I was a kind person. And I just made connections with people. And they just said, I want to work with Asa. I want to work with that guy because he's good enough and he's just a good person to be around. And I hope, obviously, through so be a good person. That's always my number one recommendation to people. If you want to like get discovered, is don't be genuine about it. Don't kiss up or anything.
Sure, makes sense.
Make connections with people and see what happens.
Oh, that's really interesting. It's a good tip. All right.
Yeah.
I think we'll move on to part 2 then, which will be me trying to do some crazy stuff on the moon of Super Mario Odyssey. So like I said, we will do a little bit more of that on the other side of part 2. But for the end of part 1, I want to thank you very much, Spike, for this interview. It was super fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Stan. I always love doing these.
All right, and let's see each other on the second part. And thank you for watching.